Okay, good morning. Welcome to Morning Headlines. I'm Lynn. It is Tuesday, 6th May 2014. And what we have today is a plethora of issues running from papers that have gone with a single issue on their front page to pages that really couldn't make up their minds what was important and have divvied it up. So let's kick things off with the ones who had a single issue forging ahead with the Malay Mail. With what appears to be good news, Malaysians far sweeter than World Health Organization thought. Now, at first you might think, you shouldn't have World Health Organization, but indeed, after you read the article, you will think they shouldn't have, or rather wish that they hadn't. Because essentially what this amounts to is that the World Health Organization projected that we would have 2.48 million diabetics in 16 years' time, and instead we already have 2.6 million diabetics. So go us and our syrup ice. Moving on to another front page that appears sweet, but delivers not so sweet news. The Star have gone with not a fruitful year, discussing how the drought has hit farmers and that therefore consumers might have to expect to pay more for fruits this year. Now, this is not exactly new news, it's been covered before, but they are now expecting a second dry season, so fruits might cost even more than that. And moving on to the papers who've gone with a split issue front page, we have Utusan Malaysia continuing their MH370 coverage, being in fact the only paper to do so on the front page in a major way. It's going on about how our Prime Minister is saying that we will look for this plane until we find it. It is practically the CNN of statements. And the other story that they're covering is militan dilatih jadi pakar. In other words, militants trained to become experts. And The Sun have also gone with two major stories. I want to get to this one in a little bit, but first, this little thing over here. Son of Maori King faces burglary charges. I'm not really sure why that warrants front page coverage. Maybe it's just to let people know that there is a Maori king who refused to see Prince William. Maybe it's because he issued a public rebuke. But nonetheless, yeah, there you go, the things you learn. And over here, no to SIB. And this is covering the fact that the High Court has dismissed a bid to challenge import bans on Christian books containing the word Allah that was brought up by Sidang Injil Borneo, or SIB. They basically said that they're bound by the ruling from the Court of Appeal saying that Allah is not an integral part of the faith and practices of Christianity. And if you're worried about a simple word having such an impact on people's religious rights and freedoms, we have Sinar Harian going Rakyat masih keliru, as well as Jangan susah hati. Sinar Harian is here to make you feel better. Rakyat masih keliru is a story in which pastors are being urged to explain hudud law before instating it, just so that people can understand. And on top is a story continuing our water woes, though it is one in which we're supposed to feel relieved, or one in which we're supposed to feel, don't worry, help is on the way. And they're saying that we shouldn't be upset because along with the rain, they're planning to do cloud seeding, and that should ensure that Selangor, Kuala Lumpur and Putrajaya is going to have uninterrupted water supply soon. Now, there have been stories every day going back and forth on the matter, so I am not sure whether I'm going to believe that or whether I'm going to continue being one of Selangor's great hoi polloi and unwashed masses, or whether I'm just going to resign myself to my fate as one of Selangor's great unwashed masses for the next few months. Continuing in split page mode, we have New Straits Times up here looking at a story that other papers are also covering, namely the huge crowds trying to get into Larkin Stadium, or rather trying to buy tickets for the FA Cup semi-final. And down here, more items may be exempted from the GST, which was of course the bill that was passed in Dewan Negara last night. Yet again, like the water story, I think the GST is a rather complex issue, and one in which, while we can get news from our papers, probably requires us to do a little bit of reading on our own. And Berita Harian, as I've mentioned earlier, is one of those papers that have decided there are just so many stories that they'd like to cover. So up here, as mentioned, is that FA Cup story yet again. Over here is a story about how Umrah packages need to be more tightly controlled so that people going to perform their Hajj aren't cheated out of their money. Here is a story about a sting on drugs, along with various other little boxes, which the paper inside will cover. And now we come to my favorite of all, Harian Metro, that you can always count on for a good old dose of Malaysiana as seen through the eyes of a crazy person, because they've looked at, again, the Johor story, but they've just covered the result. No mention of people struggling to get into the stadium. Up here, they have Pil Bakar Otak, which is such a great ad for whatever this is, saying that, the minute you take it, you go crazy. And up here, Dua Maut Nahas, because you can always count on Harian Metro to put a little bit of death and disaster on the front pages. And that brings me to my word of the day, which is Pil Bakar Otak, because who doesn't want a little bit of brain frying on a Tuesday as we wait for hump day and as we wait for the further 2 days to the weekend. Might be a bit too early for that, but I'm rolling with it anyway. I'm Lynn. This is Morning Headlines, BFM 89.9.